We welcome you back to Ashford Common Baptist Church, where we have a sermon preached to us by Chris Mills. Over to you, Chris.
So I preach about every 4 weeks or 6 weeks. I'm going through Nehemiah. I'm up to chapter 4 at the moment. And so the main passage is marked number 1 on your sheet. And could I ask Michael to read it for me?
But Judah said, the strength of the burden bearers is failing, and there is too much rubbish, so that we are unable to work on the wall. And our enemies said, they will not know or see anything before we come upon them and kill them and stop the work. When the Jews who lived near them came, they said to us 10 times, from all the places where they live, they will come up against us. So in the lowest part of the space behind the wall, in open places, I stationed the people according to their families, with their swords, their spears and their bows. After I looked these things over, I stood up and said to the nobles and the officials and the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your king, your sons, your daughters, your wives and your homes. When our enemies heard that their plot was known to us, and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to his work. From that day on, half my servants worked on construction, and half held the spears, shields, bows, and body armour. And the leaders posted themselves behind the whole house of Judah, who were building the wall. The burden bearers carried their loads in such a way that each laid it on the wall with one hand, and with the other hand held a weapon. And each of the builders had his sword strapped to his side, while he built. The man who sounded the trumpet was beside me, and I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, the work is great and widely spread out, and we are separated far from one another on the wall. Rally to us whenever you hear the sound of the trumpet. Our God will fight for us. So we laboured at the work, and half of them held the spears for the break of dawn. The stars came out. I also said to the people at the time, let every man and his servant pass the night inside Jerusalem, so that they may be a guard for us, night and may labour by day. So neither I, nor my brothers, nor my servants, nor the men of the guard who follow me, ever took off our clothes, and kept his weapon in his right hand.
Yeah, imagine that. Not having to shower or have a bath, just keep your clothes on all the time. When Satan had a garden sale, they say, he was willing to part with everything in his garage but that one tool. And that tool was a tool of discouragement. And Satan will use that tool to get us to quit pursuing God in your life and turn you into a spiritual casualty. That's exactly what he did with the Jews here in this wall building project. He tried to stop it. Everybody faces discouragement from time to time. We have our ups, our downs, our emotions and our feelings and everything. The issue isn't whether we get discouraged, it's whether we get discouraged and it affects our lives, especially our relationship to God. Now, I'm not talking today about deep-seated clinical depression. Obviously, you need tablets, you need lots of prayer. I'm talking about the mundane, down in the dumps discouragement. And it affects every relationship in your life, with God, with your wife, your children, your friends, your work associates. You might quit a job because you feel discouraged. And it becomes a breeding ground for anger and bitterness. But it can also affect your faithfulness to God. Many people have quit growing, quit being faithful to their local church, quit speaking biblical counsel, and quit finding their joy and pleasure in God. So discouragement is a very, very important thing, and we must get our attitude to it right. And these Jews began with such zeal and vim and vigour as they built those walls. They were doing really well, but soon they became very discouraged. So, 2 questions to look at this passage with. What are the causes of discouragement? And how do you pull out of it? So first of all, what are the causes? First one, it's easy to start, but finishing that counts. I think that's true for all of us, particularly here, and what we're thinking about when we look at the Bible studies on Wednesday and Tuesday as well. It seems to keep coming up. It's easy to start, it's finishing that counts. Remember, God moved Nehemiah's heart to come and call the people to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. They had a mind to work, they got busy, they were full of initial zest. That's typical, it's easy to start. The real test is keep going to the end. And obviously our Queen's a very good example of somebody who's already done that. That's an example to us. There's a very famous missionary in the South Sea Islands, they're now called the New Hebrides, called John Paton, and he gave his life to ministering to these pagan cannibals. One day he built his wife and little child a little home on the island, only to have them die of tropical disease. He was overwhelmed, with loneliness. He'd come all this way, and he's absolutely on his own. Indeed, his friend said, "Oh, get off this island and go somewhere else. Go back home to England." And so he had that time. But also, the cannibal people around him often said, "Oh, before the sun goes down, we'll cook his body and give it to every village on the line, on the island." So he got about a tree and started praying. And it didn't happen. John Paton, New Hebrides, 1800s on. It's easy to get all excited about a building or mission project in India, in the UK, or reading the Bible programme, or anything kind of, you feel zealous, and then we get discouraged. So what's happening here? Our strength is failing. Look at verse 10. Our strength is failing. You've got a picture of a labourer tottering under a heavy load. There's so much rubbish. We can't do it. Of course, if you tell yourself over and over again, I'll guarantee you will be discouraged. Once you keep saying something negative, you actually become that negative. You've got to be very careful what you say in the head. For example, here's a positive example. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. If you get that plugged in your mind, it's going to be a lot better. What you allow to circulate in your mind will affect you. Okay, so it's easy to start. What's another sign of discouragement? When your perspective, what do you gaze upon? They were looking at the rubbish rather than looking at the Lord. That's a massive difference. The famous song, two men looked through prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw the stars. What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? And the thing is, these people were thinking about themselves, not the great God and his great, awesome plan of redemption. God's plan is bigger than my puny little feelings. What fills our mental video screen? Ourselves and our problems, or Jesus, the cross, the great plan of salvation. Think of that prisoner Paul. What's filling his mental screen? Well, it's obvious this is going to be filled with
Jesus.
What's feeding my emotions? Poor me, I'm miserable. I work for God, and look, Caesar threw him in his prison. Is that right? No. Paul shouts, my ambition that Christ may be glorified in my body, that I might know him, the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his sufferings. Forgetting the past, I reach forward. What fills his mental screen? Jesus. Back in Jerusalem, not only this, but they got wind that those enemies were planning a secret invasion. Terrorist attacks, we call them, in verse 12. Here's their plan. They're going to sneak in, surprise them, and kill them all. So discouragement, as we know, is also infectious. Right along with the reality of the threat, there were Jews who worked hard to demoralise the workers. They were in hoops with some of the animals. They told us 10 times over and over, we're cooked, we're still going to die, it's no use. There's some people who just never see the light at the end of the tunnel. Rather than looking for answers, they feed upon their fears. They thrive off negativity and conspiracies and so on. Just ignore them. They were affected, most of these people, so that it affected their lives. Discouragement had stuck in them. And that's when discouragement must be dealt with. And we feel so bad that we want to go off to the Isle of Man or Isle of Wight or somewhere obscure. Yeah.
What do you say about the Isle of Wight?
Not having a go, I think. Like this mother who one day prodded her son to get out of bed and go to church. First, you're over 40 years old. Come on. So I shouldn't have to prod you. But you're also the preacher for today. Some of the causes of discouragement. Fatigue and tiredness. And that's very important to deal with that. And even Jesus said, come aside and rest a while to his disciples. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles, as we know that verse. They've lost their vision and purpose, and when you lose the big picture, you easily get discouraged. These workers couldn't see the completed wall right now. All they saw was rubbish, and they thought they just couldn't get through it. That can be true in your life. It was also they'd lost their security because they were building it at the threat of their lives, and that's why Nehemiah had to make some rearrangements of what's going down. You may be living at the threat of your job or your friendship or your home or location. So, discouragement can be quite tough. They've lost their courage and confidence. It's all a failure, though. And one more. People can spread their discouragement to you. That's definitely what's happening here. These negative, pessimistic Jews spread their discouragement. But the important thing is you can't blame anybody else for your discouragement. Don't try and do so. Right, so what does Nehemiah do? So here's Nehemiah facing a whole crew of discouraged Jews, and he rises to the occasion. This famous missionary, William Carey, Baptist minister, the first modern missionary, expect great things from God, attempt great things from God. Expect, attempt, go for it. And how did he lead these people out of their discouragement? To building the walls. He got them first of all to focus on God again. Don't be afraid. Remember the Lord who's great and awesome, and fight for your lives, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. It's really good here. He sets up the strategic guards along with keeping people together as families and giving them great motivation by keeping them near to their friends. But mainly he sees their fear, and the answer to fear is remember the Lord. Discouragement had degraded to fear. Fear means they've lost their sight of God. First thing dealing with discouragement. Who is your God? He's great, he's awesome. Who is your God? Well, let's look at number 4. Michael, can you read number 4 for me?
Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand.
Do not fear. Why? For I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you. Why? For I am your God. What will he do? I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And here's another, number 5, Sonia.
When I'm afraid, what are you going to do? I will put my trust in thee.
In God whose word I praise, in God I have put my trust. The result, I shall not be afraid. What can mere man do to me? It's all about who your God is. If he's puny, helpless, blundering deity who tries to do the best thing but doesn't usually succeed, you've got every right to fear them. But if he's this sovereign, powerful, great in wisdom, great in love and great in power, he never makes a mistake, you can then truthfully rest, depend upon him. Plus our God doesn't let anything happen that isn't in his plan book. God frustrated their plans. And frustrated means to break up, dissolve, make void, prevent, invalid, bring to no effect, or to nullify. So let's look at these two verses side by side. Can you read number 6, Eileen, and then number 7?
Yes. Let Taylor read them. Go on, Taylor, you read them.
Sure.
Okay.
In God, whose word I praise, in God I have put my trust. The result, I shall not be afraid. What can mere man do to me? Then the next one as well.
Yeah, 6 and 7.
The Lord nullifies the counsel of the nations. He frustrates the plans of the peoples.
Lovely.
Is there one from Isaiah as well?
Oh, 8 as well? Okay. For the Lord of hosts has planned, and who can frustrate it? And as for his stretched out hand, who can turn it back?
Nullify, frustrate. I love those phrases. God can do this at any time. Satan and evil and God's enemies are not outside his sovereign control. Nothing is. There isn't a chance in the world at any time God can frustrate or turn aside their plans. God keeps every move in every second of every day throughout all history on perfect track. Anything that doesn't fit in, he removes. He frustrates. Wow. Praise God. Trust him. He got them to take appropriate activities to deal with the problem. He did 3 things. This is Nehemiah. He put everyone on high alert. When you do the Lord's work, you know you have a two-sided work going on. You have to build and you have to be armed for war, like in this passage. This is exactly what Paul told the Ephesians elders in Acts 20. And that's exactly what happened. That's why we need to build and battle today. We don't want to only battle or only build. That's not biblical. We need to build up the body and also prepare them to battle against the evil forces in this world, led by Satan. And the heresy and the nonsense being taught on television and the radio by so-called Christian ministers often, these TV things, and also on normal television as well. We need to be armed with the word, and much later than that. He planned for any attack. Trumpets were made from ram's horn, they were shofars, and he played and it signified an attack. So it is good, really, to rally us there. And then the fantastic assurance. Nehemiah said to them, our God will fight for us, not without us, but in us and through and using us. Nehemiah was there right in with them. He wasn't a leader sitting in his little home doing the planning. He was there also deep inside with them. He didn't lead from the rear. I'll be the first to put my foot on the ground and I'll be the last to leave. Nehemiah was right in there dealing with some issues as they were. What a model of godly leadership. And we can think of others, can't we? We can summarise this passage in 3 responses to discouragement. We're not quitting. We're going to make some changes. And we're going to get our eyes back on our great and awesome God. Hope you'll see your way out of the ditch of discouragement. And you will be back soon, building and battling for God's glory. Let us pray. Father, help us to decide very firmly that we are not quitting our Christian life. We're going to keep going. And help us to decide we're going to make some changes. And above all, that we're going to get our eyes back on the great and awesome God, who remains so whatever happens. Lord, we want that in our lives, and we are bound to do it. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you found that sermon helpful and would like to join us again on another Sunday. In the meantime, you'll find resources available at our website, on YouTube, so please do take the opportunity to have a look. But let's hope to see you soon. God bless you.